Meanwhile, new privacy concerns over AI surveillance at Kennesaw State University.
Some students there are now taking action to inform others about dozens of security devices on campus. Atlanta News First reporter Chelsea Beinfor is live at 5 at Kennesaw State in Cobb County. And Chelsea, these students fear private conversations could be recorded.
Yeah, and some of these students are taking charge, and they've been putting up flyers on these posts around campus. Right up there is one of those AI microphones. It's got a solar-powered panel on the top of it. We spoke with students today about these privacy concerns, and we also asked the company that makes these how they really work.
They're really everywhere.
Kennesaw State student Austin Mann is talking about these automated license plate readers made by technology company Flock Safety. He's counted about 40 stationed around campus and says sometimes it can feel like he's being tracked.
Just on my way to the parking deck, I hit like 2 or 3, and one of them is facing straight into the parking deck. So as soon as I go into the parking deck to park, they know my car is exactly in that place.
His friend Isaac Toman shares similar privacy concerns about these AI microphones, also designed by Flock Safety to detect gunshots and, according to their website, sounds of human distress.
I don't have a lot of trust in this company right now.
Toman fears that if the microphones can detect gunshots and screams, they could also be recording private conversations. Flock's website does not specify exactly what they consider to be, quote, critical sounds, but they list car crashes and fireworks as examples.
I think that there's definitely an expectation of privacy as a student, just walking around having a conversation with your friend at a normal volume.
To notify other students about the devices hiding in plain sight, Toman and Mann are hanging these flyers across campus. But some students say they're glad to have these safety measures in place at Kennesaw State.
I feel safer knowing that we've got that another layer of security. So.
Now, Flock spokesperson tells us that these audio detection systems are not continuous recording devices, and they do not monitor conversations. They tell us that they only wake up when they hear things like gunshots, car crashes, or fireworks, but they didn't say how long they continue recording after that. Now, we also asked the college today for comment regarding these student concerns, and so far have not heard back. Reporting live from Kennesaw State, Chelsea Beinfor, Atlanta News First.